Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm 34. And the last time I saw my family, they called me a predator in front of the neighbors. I wasn't perfect, but I was steady. Project manager by trade. Lived alone in a 2-bedroom apartment I kept obsessively clean. Had a cat named Radar, a balcony herb garden, and a weird love for filing cabinets. Boring to some, but I liked my quiet routines. I'd grown up in noise, so calm felt like safety. My sister, Danny, younger by 5 years, was the firecracker of the family. Dramatic, impulsive, always pulling oxygen from the room. She had a daughter, Chloe. 13, moody, all limbs and sarcasm. And up until a year ago, I thought Chloe was just that moody. Now she's the reason my life burned down. I was the cool uncle. Showed up to recitals, helped with science projects, fixed the Wi-Fi. Danny was a single mom, and I tried to help without interfering. Chloe and I got along well. At least I thought so. We had inside jokes. I taught her chess. She beat me once and wouldn't stop reminding me. I never crossed a line. Not once. Not even close. So when Danny called me, sobbing, voice shaking, and said, "Chloe told me what you did," I thought she meant something minor. Forgot her birthday. Took the wrong tone. But no, she meant assault. That kind of accusation. That level of horror. My stomach dropped through the floor. I laughed for a second in shock. What? Danny, what the hell are you talking about? She didn't want explanations. Just kept yelling. Said the police were already on their way. She was hysterical. Screaming through the phone that she never wanted to see me again. I stood there in my hallway, holding my phone like it might bite me. That night, I was in an interrogation room at 1 a.m., surrounded by fluorescent lights and judgment. I told the truth. Every second of my truth. That I hadn't touched Chloe. That I hadn't even seen her alone in weeks. That I had no idea where this was coming from. But the detective's eyes stayed flat. Neutral. They'd heard every version of innocence before. They let me go pending investigation. No charges. No handcuffs. But the damage had already begun. The next day, my landlord left a voicemail. Some concerning reports. We need to discuss your tenancy. I was banned from my gym. My inbox exploded with cancellations. My boss placed me on indefinite leave. And just like that, my life, my safe, routine, carefully built life was shattered by a 13-year-old's lie. The first week felt like drowning in syrup. Everything slowed down. Every moment dragged. And every noise, footsteps, a phone buzz, the rustle of mail made my chest clamp shut. I wasn't arrested, but it didn't matter. The stain was already there. The worst part? My parents didn't call. Not to ask, not to check, not even to scream. Just nothing. Total silence from the people who were supposed to know me better than anyone. People I'd spent years helping fixing their gutters, driving them to appointments, reconfiguring Dad's ancient desktop more times than I could count. Now, they were ghosts. Cowardly ones. The only person who reached out was my cousin Gabe, a paramedic with more tattoos than tact. He sent a one-line text. "If you're innocent, don't say a word to anyone. Lawyering up now is survival, not guilt." I didn't even respond. Just booked a consult the next morning. The attorney was blunt. Mid-40s, no nonsense, and allergic to small talk. False accusations happen. Rare but real. The question is, what's her motive? I had no answer. Chloe and I were fine. Maybe a little distant recently, but nothing sinister. Could be revenge, she offered. Could be pressure, could be projection. Doesn't matter right now. Your job is not to figure it out. It's to protect yourself. She told me to document everything. Every interaction. Every message. Every memory that might become relevant. I filled 3 notebooks in 2 weeks. Scanned old texts, logged my location data, saved calendar invites from work and every time-stamped receipt I could find. I built my alibi like I was coding a fortress. Meanwhile, the silence from Danny was loud. I texted her once. "Please talk to me. You know I would never hurt her." No reply. Then I tried my mom. "Please. I didn't do this." All I got was a single message back. "We're letting the authorities handle it." Letting the authorities handle it? I wasn't a broken pipe or a parking ticket. And then the whispers started. My ex, Marie, sent me a screen recording of a Facebook thread. It didn't name me directly. But 13, uncle, trusted, and monster. Were enough for the town to connect the dots. And someone did. My neighbor, sweet old Mrs. Tillman, stopped waving when she saw me. The barista I used to joke with put my coffee down like it might be poisoned. I was radioactive. And I hadn't even been charged. My boss called me into a final review meeting. They wouldn't fire me outright, not while the investigation was technically inconclusive. But they offered a severance package that made their intentions pretty clear. It's about the company image, they said. I signed the papers in silence. I didn't fight. Not because I agreed, but because I was exhausted. I spent the next month applying for jobs and hearing nothing back. The few who called back Googled me before the second round. Then silence. I canceled my lease, sold my car, moved into a rental 30 minutes out of town where nobody knew me. And then 61 days after the accusation, Danny called. Her voice was shaking, low, like she'd been crying for hours. She admitted it, she said. Chloe admitted she made it up. My legs buckled. I sat down on the floor of my half-unpacked apartment, surrounded by unopened boxes and the wreckage of my life. She said it was because you embarrassed her. That day at Grandma's. When you told her to put her phone down at the table. She felt humiliated. So she told her friend she hated you. And the friend said if she wanted to get back at you, she should say something. Something big. I didn't say anything. Danny sobbed. I am so sorry. I should have asked. I should have waited. I should have believed you. I said the only thing I could say. You didn't. The confession changed everything. And nothing. No charges were filed. My record stayed clean. My name, however, still radioactive. Unfounded accusation. Doesn't undo the whispers. It doesn't erase the archived screenshots. And it damn sure doesn't get you your job back. 3 hours after Danny's call, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Texts from family, people who'd ghosted me, friends who'd quietly disappeared. I heard what happened. Wow. So relieved it wasn't true. Let's catch up soon. Can't believe she'd lie like that. Unreal. Unreal? No. It was very real. I lived it. Then came my mom. She showed up unannounced. I cracked the door, but left the chain on. She looked like she hadn't slept, and for the first time in months, she didn't look mad. Just old. Lucas, she whispered. We didn't know. We believed her. We had to. No, I said. You chose to. She flinched. I'm your son. You knew me for 34 years. She told the story with no dates, no details, no consistency. And you still believed it. She opened her mouth probably to say something about protecting Chloe, but I shut the door. Didn't slam it. Just closed it, like you do when a movie ends. Quiet. Final. And then came Danny. 3 days later. She called, texted, begged. Said she was bringing Chloe? Just 5 minutes. She wants to say she's sorry. We owe you that much. I didn't respond. Because here's the thing, I didn't want an apology. I wanted my life back. My apartment. Gone. My job. Gone. My reputation. Torn to shreds. The peace I used to feel walking down a street, buying groceries, living my life? Gone. And Chloe's sorry. That wasn't for me. It was to clear her conscience. Like a kid offering an ice pack after setting your house on fire. No thanks. The real turning point came a week later. My uncle, one of the few who'd stayed quiet instead of piling on, invited me to dinner. Neutral spot. No surprises. He cooked steak. Said nothing heavy, just food and quiet. Halfway through, he asked, So what now? I looked at him. Then I told him what I'd been planning. I'm leaving. City job, all of it. New name, maybe. Clean slate. I don't want a redemption arc. I want silence. I'm done with them. He nodded, poured more wine, and said, Good. I left the city 10 days later. Changed my number. Blocked every relative. Took a job 3 states away under my middle name. Didn't even tell Gabe. I needed distance like air. They say time heals everything. No. Distance heals what time can't even touch. The first few months in a new city felt like I was operating on autopilot. Wake up. Work. Eat. Sleep. Repeat. I kept my head down. I learned the names of the coffee shop workers, the neighbors, the grocery store layout, but I didn't really engage. I wasn't ready. The scars from the past year were still raw, still burning under the surface. I didn't want to risk anyone knowing me long enough to see them. It wasn't until I bumped into someone on the street, Ari, a woman I'd worked with a few times in my old office, that things started to shift. "Lucas? Wait, is that you?" she called out, a bit surprised, but with genuine warmth. She was holding an iced coffee, smiling. I stood there for a beat longer than I should have before replying. "Yeah, it's me. Just moved here." Her face lit up. "Wow. That's crazy. Everyone's been asking about you. You just vanished, no word, no explanation. What happened? You just up and leave?" I froze. But then something strange happened. I didn't feel the usual tightening in my chest, the shame, the anger, the gut-churning reminder of everything that had been torn away. Instead, I felt calm. Weirdly solid. I met her eyes. False accusation? My family turned on me, and I left. She blinked. "Oh. I'm sorry to hear that. But you're doing all right now." I shrugged, my usual defense mechanism, but it was different. Less forced. More honest. "I'm good," I said. "Better than good. I'm better without them." And I was. There was this weight that I hadn't fully realized was lifting. The anger, the heartbreak, the feeling of being discarded like an afterthought, all of it, gone. It wasn't as though I didn't still carry it with me. It was more that I had accepted it as part of my past, but it didn't define me anymore. Ari raised an eyebrow. "Good for you. Seriously. It's hard to walk away from family." "I had to," I said. "For my sanity. For the person I want to be. Not the person they wanted me to be." She nodded like she understood. And maybe she did. We chatted for a bit more, exchanging pleasantries, until I finally turned to head in the direction I'd been walking. "Hey," she called after me. "Let's grab coffee sometime. Not the kind where you tell me a life story, but the kind where you don't feel like you owe anyone an explanation." I smiled for the first time in ages. "That sounds perfect." As time went on, I found new rhythms. I kept working hard. Stayed focused. Got promoted. Made new friends. Real friends, people who didn't need a long backstory to trust me, to believe in me. 6 months passed. Then a year. And one random Tuesday, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Danny. I hadn't heard from her in months. The text was short. Too short. "I'm sorry. For everything. Chloe too. We know we can't fix what we did. But we're here if you want to talk. Please. Let us know." I stared at it for a long time. The old familiar feeling of being wanted, needed. The lure of being a part of something again. But there was nothing in me that reached for it. Not anymore. I thought about how far I'd come, how much peace I'd built, how much strength I'd found. And I realized that sometimes, the hardest thing isn't cutting ties, it's knowing that, even with all the apologies in the world, the ties aren't worth reconnecting. I didn't respond. Instead, I went for a run. Felt the breeze on my face, listened to the rhythm of my own breathing, and just let the world keep moving, without me needing to chase it. This life? It was mine now. I wasn't going to hand it over to anyone ever again. Things started to settle into place after that. The last remnants of the past seemed to fade into the background like old wallpaper, peeling slowly away until I didn't even notice it was gone. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was just free. Work was going well. I'd started a new project with a small team that was starting to take off. A client I'd secured last year had signed on for a second contract, this one nearly double the value. My boss, a no-nonsense woman named Sarah, had taken me under her wing, and I couldn't help but appreciate the way she pushed me. It wasn't a job I'd planned on staying at forever, but it was a solid stepping stone, a place to rebuild. And it felt good to know I was being recognized for my work, not for being someone's brother or uncle. Outside of work, life had gotten simpler. I joined a local basketball league, something I hadn't done in years. The first time I stepped onto the court, it felt like I was rediscovering a piece of myself I'd forgotten. I ran with the guys from work, grabbed beers after games, and for the first time in ages, I felt connected. Not to my past, but to the present. The now. But there were still days when the memories crept in. Days when the silence from my family weighed heavier than it should, when I couldn't shake the image of my mother crying at the door, the look on my father's face when he found out. I had let go of all of it, but it wasn't gone. Not completely. One night, about a year and a half after I left, I sat on my couch scrolling through old messages. I hadn't heard from Chloe or Danny in so long, and despite my decision to move on, a small part of me wondered what they were doing now. How was Chloe? Was she still carrying guilt? Was Danny, finally, waking up to how badly she'd failed me? That night, as I was about to shut off my phone, another message popped up from Danny. It was another short one. I hope you're happy. I still think about you. I'm sorry for everything. That was it. No attempt to justify, no begging for forgiveness. Just an apology. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, not sure what I was supposed to feel. And in the end, I realized I felt nothing. Not relief. Not anger. Just nothing. I couldn't go back. I wasn't the person who would ever fit into that old life again. I wasn't the guy who waited for an apology, who gave second chances when they weren't earned. I was the guy who built himself back from the ashes, who chose silence and peace over the noise of a toxic family. And that was enough. I deleted the message. Then I got up, walked over to my window, and looked out at the city skyline. It wasn't home. It wasn't the same place I'd left behind. But it was mine. I had built it. Every brick, every corner, every quiet moment. And it felt damn good to know that I was the only one who could ever take it away from me. It's funny, the things you can learn from letting go. I used to think closure was something I had to wait for. Like it was a gift someone else had to give me. I waited for my family's apology, for the people who betrayed me to get it finally. To understand the weight of their choices and how much they'd hurt me. But that never came. Instead, I learned that closure isn't something you wait for. It's something you give yourself. It's accepting that sometimes things break, and they don't always heal the way you want them to. Sometimes, the pieces are scattered in ways that never come back together, and you have to walk away with whatever's left of yourself. It's been over a year since I heard from Danny. I don't think about her much anymore, not the way I used to. But sometimes, late at night when I'm alone with my thoughts, I'll think about what could have been. Not with anger, not with regret. Just a quiet ache for what I thought family was supposed to be. A memory of when things used to feel easy and safe. But that's it. That's all I let it be. A memory. Since then, life has kept moving forward. Slowly at first. Then faster, once I let go of the chains I'd been carrying around. Work, relationships, new friends. I've built a life I'm proud of. I'm not perfect, but I'm real. I'm not waiting for permission to be seen anymore. One of the best things I've learned? That I don't need their approval to feel like I matter. Not anymore. I spent so many years trying to earn it, trying to be the person they wanted me to be, that I lost sight of who I was underneath all the expectations. Who I was before I became the shadow in their spotlight. That person? I'm him now. And I don't need anyone else to remind me of that. One day, when I'm older and I look back on all this, I know what I'll remember. Not the pain, not the betrayal. But the strength it took to stand up again. The courage to walk away and keep moving forward. The power to choose my own path, without needing anyone's permission to live my life. And when I think about my family, about what could have been, I won't feel sad. I'll just feel thankful. Thankful that I learned the hardest lesson of all, that my worth isn't defined by the people who choose to walk out of my life. It's defined by me. By how I rebuild after everything falls apart. And maybe that's the real gift. The days continue to roll by like waves breaking on a shore. The noise from my past, the whispers, the accusations, the betrayal faded with time. Not gone, just quieter, softer, like the hum of a distant storm I'd learned to live with. At work, things were finally looking up. I was running my own team, managing projects that pushed me in ways I hadn't expected. The work itself was rewarding, but it was the way my confidence had shifted that made the biggest difference. I was no longer the guy who doubted every decision, who second-guessed every move. I had proven to myself that I could build something from scratch, not just in the literal sense of my career, but in how I rebuilt my identity after everything had crumbled. I started dating someone new, not seriously, just casually. Her name was Mia. She was independent, funny, and had her own life, her own boundaries. It wasn't like the relationships I'd had before. There was no desperation for validation, no need to prove I was worthy. It felt healthy. We would grab coffee on weekends, have dinner after work, talk about everything and nothing. It was simple, but it was the first time I'd ever been in a relationship where I felt truly seen for who I was, not for what my family expected me to be. There were moments, though, when the past would return like a shadow slipping across my path. It was usually in the quiet moments when I was lying awake in bed at night, or when I'd walk through the familiar streets of my old neighborhood. In those moments, the silence from my family would hit hardest. I never reached out. I didn't want to. I had no desire to revisit the wreckage of the past. But the feeling of being left behind, of being erased from the life I once thought was solid, would resurface. I thought about them less and less, but when I did, it wasn't out of anger. It was more out of a quiet understanding that they could never be the people I needed them to be. The shame they had placed on me was not mine to carry. But it didn't make the memories disappear. Some nights, I'd find myself thinking about my mom's face when she said those words. We believed her, and I'd wonder if she ever regretted it. But those thoughts faded quickly because I understood something essential. Regrets don't change anything. I spent time learning more about myself. I started journaling not just the work stuff, but my thoughts, my experiences, my feelings. I didn't always know what I was feeling, but writing helped untangle it. I also started taking trips on my own. I went to the mountains once for a weekend retreat, spent the days hiking, and the nights reading in front of a fire. I didn't think about anything except the next step forward. The world was vast, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had the freedom to take whatever path I chose without looking over my shoulder. The past still existed, but it didn't define me anymore. It was a part of my history, yes, but not my identity. Then, one day, out of the blue, I got a call. It was from Chloe. At first, I thought it was a prank. She hadn't spoken to me in over a year. But there it was, her name flashing on my screen. I hesitated. For a moment, I considered ignoring the call, just like I had every other attempt to reach out from my family. But something stopped me. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I was hoping that, in some small way, she'd come to understand the impact of what she'd done. So I answered. Lucas? Her voice was small. Different. The sound of someone who hadn't been sure how to start a conversation that should have happened long ago. I didn't know what to say. So I waited. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For what I did. I didn't realize how much it would hurt you until it was too late. I didn't respond right away. I was still processing. Trying to decide what to feel. Was it enough? Could an apology fix anything? Would it even change anything? I know, she continued, that saying sorry doesn't undo it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I know I was wrong. And I'm sorry. I sat in silence, my mind racing. It wasn't what I expected. I wanted it to be enough, but part of me felt that it wasn't. I had spent so long rebuilding my life, moving on, that hearing those words didn't feel like closure. It felt strange. Not relieving, not freeing. Just strange. After a long pause, I finally spoke. I appreciate that you're saying this, Chloe. I do. But what you did, it's not something that can be fixed with words. It's not something I can just forgive. Not like that. What happened changed everything. She didn't argue, didn't try to convince me otherwise. She just said, I understand. I didn't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to say it. So you know that I regret it. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. I'm glad you understand. The conversation ended shortly after. Neither of us knew what else to say. I didn't call her back. I didn't need to. The past had been addressed, but I didn't need it to be a focal point in my life. I'd said my piece. She'd said hers. And that, in a way, was the final step. The end of the road I'd been walking since that day the accusation had shattered everything. I didn't hate her. I didn't resent her. I just didn't need her anymore. And in a strange way, that was the peace I'd been searching for. The rest of the journey? It's mine now. The pieces of my life, both the broken ones and the whole ones, are mine to carry. The past doesn't own me anymore. Neither does my family. I'm building something new. And this time, it's not for anyone else. It's for me. As time passes, the weight of what happened feels lighter. I still think about my family, but only in passing. The hurt doesn't define me anymore, it's just part of my story. I'm stronger now, built from the pieces of the past but not held hostage by them. I've made a life that feels like mine. Real friends, a stable job, peace. Sometimes I wonder what might have been if things had gone differently. But then I realize this new life, this freedom, it's worth more than anything I could have imagined back then. I'm free. And for the first time in years, I feel like I'm truly home.